Our first guest today, is a gentleman we talked to a couple of years ago. We did a show at SeaWorld, and forget why, but the Bermuda Triangle. This gentleman was brought in, and it turned out to be one of the better parts of the program because we didn't quite know what to expect from somebody who claimed to know a great deal about it. But this guy took a very scientific approach, pretty much factual, about what he does. Better to have you tell it. Exactly what is it that you do?
Well, basically, our organization investigates scientifically a variety of anomalous or paranormal phenomena. And that
ranges on everything from UFOs to demonic possession.
Right. Everything imaginable. Anomalies, that's a term usually means something that's unexplainable, and that could range for anything from rain of toads and spiders from the sky for no apparent reason to the entire city being covered with a giant web, that kind of thing.
Wait a minute. Has those things happened?
Yes.
It's rained spiders?
Yeah, and actually, there's been. It's interesting too because there are also rational explanations for events like that. For example, there was one city that said that they rained worms for like an hour, and what had taken place is apparently very strong gale force winds, hurricane winds, had picked up these worms and carried them a long ways and actually rained them down in one whole area.
Just relocated the worms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, so it sounds like what you guys are trying to do, because your approach on everything you're doing is a very scientific, factually based approach.
Right.
You're trying to take the situation that is presented to you and take out the unbelievable part and try to explain it.
Well, for the most part, I'm not sure if we're trying to explain it. Following a scientific protocol, what we try to eliminate our own belief system. We don't go in there trying to believe it or not believe in it. We go in very unbiasedly. We keep an open mind because we found if you go in, for example, let's say we go into a poltergeist case, and someone goes in there very skeptically. Cognitively, the way you perceive things, it could change the way you see things. An object could move, and you could in fact say, "Oh, no, that never happened. It never moved." On the other hand, if you go in believing in something and you really believe it strong enough, you'll begin to either psychologically hallucinate the events or you could actually make them happen.
So it has to be scientifically approached where there is, I'm assuming you have various amounts of equipment and certain things that you go in to register what's taking place.
Right. We go through a very strict protocol. First thing we do is do psychological assessments of all the people, physiological assessments of them. We analyze the environment for any type of hallucinogenic phenomena or chemicals, things of that nature. And then we stay in the location for up to 72 hours trying to find a rational explanation first. And if we don't find it, then we pursue to analyze whatever the phenomena is.
The Office of Scientific Investigation and Research has staffed over 300 scientists?
That's right.
It'd be kind of crowded if it was like an apartment being haunted.
All right, back up, people. Jesus.
Too many scientists.
Yes.
So are you... what do you do personally for this office? Are you actually going out and in the field and investigating these things?
As a director of operations, one of my jobs is to expedite the cases to different case managers. And at any one time, right now we have approximately 67 cases nationwide that are going.
How long has this office been in?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
OSR has been 20 years.
Give us the big one. What do you have? One of the big ones.
One of the ones that you couldn't explain away scientifically.
Raining worms, come on.
It was wind.
That's true.
No.
Any particular subject matter?
It's Halloween. Let's go hauntings, paranormal crap.
Okay, well, how about go with one with demonic possession, since I know Linda Blair is supposed to be.
All right, very cool.
We had one case where an entire family of 5 were demonically possessed. All at the same time, and they could be in different parts of the house. They'd have no contact with each other, and then all of a sudden they would exhibit extraordinary strength. They would talk in different languages. The 5-year-old child would talk in ancient Hebrew. They would rip at their skin, literally mutilating it, pick up large objects thrown across the room. And this would go on again.
How old were these children?
There was one 5, one was 9, and then there was the 2 parents. And again, they could be in different parts of the house. This would go on for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden the phenomenon would stop. And they would all stop spontaneously at the same time, wherever they were, and they would have no recollection of the events that took place. It'd be as if there was a black spot in their memory of the event.
How were you called? How were you called to this investigation?
We were actually called through the psychiatrist that they were referred to, and the psychiatrist came to us and asked us to get involved.
So you go to the house or their dwelling, and you spend time there.
Oh yeah, we spent a lot. We spent several months with them. I had a team there constantly, around the clock.
And they wanted help.
Most definitely, because they would find, basically, they'd be in one room 1 second, suddenly they'd find themselves in another room a couple minutes later, and their skin would be torn, objects would be flying around,
my God,
in different parts of the room.
All right, now, one of the things you said is that one of the first things you do is you go in and you psychiatrically, you evaluate these people. Did
That's
you
correct.
find them, first step, did you find them to be sane?
Extremely, yes.
Okay, so you yourself, you go in, did you witness the possession of various members of this family?
The event, yes.
You videotaped that?
Yes, we did. Everything we do, we videotape.
Do you have it?
No, not with me, no.
Now, so I would assume you don't show that kind of stuff around. I mean,
We try not to. There's actually a very strict confidentiality protocol we have with our clients, like a doctor or a psychologist would.
And you yourself, did you hear the 5-year-old speaking foreign languages, ancient Hebrew, and throwing things?
Yes.
And was it frightening to see?
Frightening, I'm not sure if that would be the right word, because, again, we go in there as scientists. So in some situations, we've been electrocuted and burned under poltergeist situations, and while that's startling, we try not to let it get to us because we're really focusing on what the phenomena is.
Get out of the house, Christopher.
Right.
That's what. Jeez. All right.
Well,
you've
it's
been
disturbing.
shocked. You've been shocked. Electrical shock through
Yes.
a poltergeist disturbance.
Yeah, arcing in homes, yeah.
And burnt badly.
Yeah, pretty bad. And some situations when we're wearing night vision goggles, we can't always see objects, especially if they're being propelled at you. So I've had a broken nose twice from objects that slammed into me. I think disturbing would be the best way to describe when you see people going through that type of trauma. I guess it'd be no different than if you were in an ER room of a hospital, and when they're going through this thing, and it is quite extraordinary when they're going through it, especially since there's no rational explanation for it. Because again, we rule out personality disorders, chemical. Biophysical reactions that they could be having, and the only way that particular phenomena stopped, even after we went through our whole regimen of trying to get rid of it scientifically, is we ended up bringing in an exorcist who we work with through the Catholic Church. And they actually sometimes had brought us in on a couple of exorcisms just to monitor scientifically the situation. And no explanation for it. He did the particular rite, and the phenomena stopped.
Did you videotape the exorcism?
Yes.
Did things happen while the exorcism was being performed?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
Can you talk about those things?
Yeah. Well, outside of the things happening with the people, and again, this ranges everything from mutilating themselves skin-wise, talking in different languages, projectile vomiting, things of that nature. There would also be environmental changes in the temperature, 40 to 50 degrees. Objects that were magnetic in nature would slide.
I'm sorry, 40 to 50 degrees, from 40 to 50, or 40 to 50 degrees change in temperature?
40 to 50 degrees change in temperature. So
in the room while the exorcism was happening?
Exactly.
Were the 5 members of the family there when it was taking place?
Yes. We tried to keep them all in one room while the exorcism was taking place. Right.
And what was happening with them while the exorcism was being performed? Because the exorcism, it is actually words from the Bible, is it not? There is a rite?
Yeah, there's actually not only words from the Bible, but there's a whole rite, a Catholic a rite which was written up in the Catholic Church years ago, just like matrimony or confirmation or anything else. A whole rite that they go through, read,
and he is reading these rites. And did things happen with the family?
Yes, it did. Actually, what had taken place is they performed the rite when they were in a normal state, and they started going into their demonic possessed state, and that's when he started again going through the rite one more time. So actually, technically, he went through it twice.
Holy water and all that?
Yes, he had holy water, all the crosses, candles, everything.
Out.
David, bingo!
Out. There is I don't know if it's a cliche or if it's just an old wives' tale saying that there's never been a death recorded due to a ghost or a haunting or a spirit, or is that true?
No, I mean, it's not true.
You have 300 people on your staff. Has there ever been a death on your staff?
Yes, there have been.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Well, those are kind of the situations we'd rather not discuss for the most part.
Was it because of the death caused by something paranormal?
Yeah,
something
because of
unexplained?
the phenomena itself, exactly.
All right, let's go back to the situation you just talked about, demonic possession. You as an individual, as a scientist, as a human being, can you say without question that you yourself believe that a human being can be possessed by a spirit of a devil or a demon?
I think, obviously, since we're following a scientific protocol to this, it would be wrong of me to say no, and I think it would also be wrong for me to say yes. So I have to say it's definitely possible.
Wait a minute. You have seen things that none of us have ever seen and never will.
You've been burnt.
You saw a 5-year-old speak foreign languages and pick things up that he could possibly never pick up and throw across the room.
Right.
You witnessed an exorcism, yet still you can sit there and say that you can't answer the question.
Basically, yes, that's right. And the reason being is because in order to follow a scientific protocol, every situation is separate and different. And there's no way we could ascertain or be absolutely sure that the person was possessed by an entity. For all we know, it could be some bizarre, strange geophysical phenomena of the Earth that affects only certain people and makes them have these types of experiences.
What kind of proof will you need then, after seeing the things that you've seen?
The spirit to walk up, sign a paper?
I mean, yeah, what kind of proof? I've always wondered this. What kind of proof would a person need? A scientific investigation?
Well, that's one of the jobs of OSIR. We've been doing what we refer to in science as a macro analysis. We've been collecting thousands and thousands of cases. Personally, I've been on over 1,000 haunt poltergeist cases, just those type of phenomena. And we're trying to collect all this data and look at it at a macro sense, at the whole picture, to try to ascertain exactly what it is, what's happening.
Well, how close to that are you?
Very close.
Now, one would also assume that before you guys bring out the U-Haul and load up all your equipment and drive over to somebody's house, you have somebody go and evaluate what this is and if it's worthy of your time.
Sorry, I'm having a good time with the image of a U-Haul pulling up to my haunted house. Hi, Christopher.
Hello.
Actually, we have a mobile unit. It looks like a motor home that's darked out on all sides, and it's full of chemical, electrical equipment, everything.
So one would assume that because of what you do and because of the fact that there's a ton of quacks out there, a very high percentage is just quacks.
Yeah, we definitely have a procedure where we try to sift out those people.
So the only ones you go on are when you've gone in, you've evaluated, and it's worth your time.
Exactly right.
You're familiar with the movie The Entity?
Yes,
and that whole story behind it. We've had Kerry Gaynor on the program.
Oh, sure, yeah, Kerry's great.
Yeah, he's a very good. Like you, it's like, okay, well, prove it to me, instead of like going in with he goes in with a very almost closed mind, open to being closed. Like, oh, you've got to prove it to me. What I see. I need proof of this. Have you ever had, your group, ever had an experience like The Entity where a woman was being raped by a...
Yes, we have.
About that?
One specific one comes to mind, a poltergeist case where the woman was being sexually abused, and we could visibly see this. We had cameras on her, and
what
in
did
one
you
particular
see?
event, her blouse she was wearing was ripped open. And
no one around her. She didn't do it herself.
No, and there were 5 of us in the room: a psychiatrist, a medical doctor who was also a neurologist, a chemist, a physicist, an electrical engineer, as well as myself. No one was around us. We also had her in thermography, so we can monitor the thermal environment around her, so we can see
the temperature change.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
What took place is she began to scream and say she could feel this entity.
God, I love this
affecting
stuff.
her. Her blouse was ripped open. Her hands reached up as if she was trying to pull it off, and her hands froze. At that point, she was pulled up off the chair where she was sitting, and we could see around her neck the ripples as if something was squeezing her. We could see the bruises as if someone was grasping around her neck and holding it.
So some skin on her neck went concave.
Exactly.
You could see it. Okay.
Yeah, you could actually see the bruising taking place. At the time, there was a minute sound of a cracking, not as if it was breaking her neck, but you could actually see the visual.
Now, when you said
the same with her chest, you could actually see as if there were impressions being placed upon her.
Was there intercourse involved with this?
In that particular event, no, but in other instances there were. Now, the interesting element is that went on for a little bit. We monitored the situation until we determined that we should try to do whatever we can. We actually sedated her, and it stopped. But what we found out in her situation was that she had actually been sexually abused as a little girl. And she had repressed these memories for years. And now what she had done now in this later time, for some reason, she had somehow been able to access an ability known as psychokinesis, the ability to move objects or alter the environment. And subconsciously, she had created this entity in the back of her mind, which was this person who had abused her, and had been manifesting it with her subconscious. So in essence, the entity was in fact a manifestation of her own. And she's actually doing all these phenomena to herself, unknowing to her.
How does she make her blouse rip open and not touch it?
Well, that's the ability of psychokinesis. It's in theory, it's the ability of the mind to be able to alter or change.
We're talking about bending forks, kind of that.
Exactly,
the same kind of thing. So she, with her mind, was able to rip open her own blouse.
Yes.
Cause indentions on her skin.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's just too out there.
Yeah.
Now, you said she got up off the chair, or
she was lifted off the chair. Yes.
Was she actually levitating?
I wouldn't say she was levitating. No. In that particular incident, she was as if someone had grabbed her neck and pulled her up off the chair. So she had lifted good 2 feet off the ground and then came back down.
Now, the expression and reaction from her, was she genuinely? I would imagine you would know genuine terror if you saw it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was more. She was definitely traumatized, going through trauma at the time when she was experiencing it. There was fear. I mean, as if just like a normal person was being raped, most definitely.
But Christopher, we're going to take a break and come right back. We have a bunch more questions for you. You're always a cool guest. Now we remember in San Diego why we wanted you back.
Yeah, because we kept going. Now, we want to take the break, and when we come back, if we could discuss, tonight we're showing at the drive-in, we're showing The Exorcist.
Okay.
And we heard the story that that film was based on a true story. So if you have any information or input on that, could tell us a little bit about that story, we'd love to hear it.
Okay.
All right. Christopher Chacon is here. He is with the Office of Scientific Investigative Research. Now, one of the things we talked about a second ago is that you guys as scientists, you go into these situations and you videotape and you do all kinds of, you do your procedures.
Right.
But because of the fact that this is a protected situation, you don't show the videotapes around. In fact, you mentioned that Amblin Entertainment came in and wanted to take a look at some stuff and you wouldn't even show it to them, which is cool. What is the most amazing stuff that you have, and if you were to put together a greatest hits of your video stuff, say for example in Poltergeist and Ghosts, what piece of video do you guys have, and what is it that would be the most amazing to sit and watch?
Well, there's actually, as far as the phenomena that's real, we have a lot of incredible videotape, which I'm sure the scientific community would love to take a look at as a whole. And almost every type of phenomena, as far as documentation goes. The problem is, at least from our standpoint, is videotape by itself doesn't prove anything. In fact, we're very reluctant just to use that one piece of evidence. And for us, it's a collection of all types of evidence. Videotape is just one aspect of it. But I mean, we've captured on film unidentified flying objects, poltergeist activity, objects flying around the room. There was one case, actually, where video didn't help. It was a subjective. Most hauntings are subjective, whereby only certain people can see this. It doesn't really happen in the environment. They think it could be happening telepathically. And in this particular case, we had, again, an entire team of 8 scientists in the environment with the family members. We all saw the person standing there, solid, just like you and I, standing here.
You saw it?
Yes, we all did. We were monitoring the environment. We had video cameras, equipment, and we followed this individual walk through the house until they eventually just walked right through a wall. At that point,
he walked through a wall?
Yes, exactly.
Wait a minute now.
Did you try to follow him and hit your head? I love that bit.
Three Stooges stuff. You yourself sit in this chair and you say to us that you and these other people saw this apparition solid, walking about the room. You followed it through the house, and then you witnessed it walk through a wall.
That's correct. Yeah. And the interesting thing is when we played back the videotape, we can all see us looking at something, monitoring something, but nothing was videotaped. There was nothing, no apparition, there's nothing solid on the tape itself.
Well, that's just too, you're going to have to go. That's just too strange.
What do you do? I mean, on a human side of this, on the personal side of it, what do you do with you and 3 other guys or whatever watching this thing, following to the house, walk to the wall? What do you say? What is said? What do you say to each other? Right as soon as it walks through the wall, you look at each other and go, cool, or what?
I'm going to Burger King. Who needs something?
Well, that's a good question. I think, well, basically, I mean, to some degree, we sort of have to be inhuman to really monitor it. I mean, for the most part, we're like jurors, in a sense, where we're just all we look at the facts and the hard data. We do not look at anything else. We just remove ourselves totally from the investigation, because otherwise, emotionally, we could be affecting not only the situation, but how we perceive it.
Sure. But, I mean, your shift is over, you're driving home, and it's got to run back in your head. I mean, what you saw, you're driving home to you married, your family, and you have...
we have experiences. I see what you're saying. How do you
deal with that? I mean, how do you sleep at night?
That's a good question. Like I said...
does it ever return to you? I mean, mentally?
Yes, most definitely.
All right. Well, then let me ask you this. We've had a lot of reports of, and we gone in Halloween's past, and we'll do it again, to haunted houses. We'll spend the night. We'll do all that. Engineers will not... Some engineers we've dealt with over the years won't come with this because they say they'll follow you home. You have 300 staff members out investigating all these paranormal activities. Has there ever been a case where one of your staff members will go home and things will start happening in his home, his house?
Right. That has occurred.
Okay.
It's an interesting phenomenon. It's almost like
Is there workman's comp for that?
What do you call?
It's almost like post-traumatic stress disorder to some degree, because sometimes when you experience phenomena which is not typical of that which you would experience in the average day, well, except maybe if you walk around Los Angeles for a while, Yeah, people come home and go back to their families, whatever their life is, and of course, it does have an effect on them.
All right, now this is how you make your living. This is what you do.
That's correct.
You are paid a salary for this, and you actually are living a true life X-Files kind of situation. I mean, that's
true.
Really,
yes.
what this is.
Yeah, basically, in fact, we have consulted for government agencies who bring cases like that. I mean, technically, there is no such thing as X-Files in the FBI. They don't do that kind of thing.
Right.
We're the type of agency that they turn to do that kind of investigations.
Now,
is it tough for you to come up with a Halloween costume? I mean, you just go, what are you? I'm Case 93.
Oh, I get that. That's
remember
great.
that one? Where the guy walked through the wall?
Talk for a minute about the, if you know anything about the true story of the, I think it was a 10-year or 14-year-old boy that the story from The Exorcist is based on. Do you have any information on that?
I don't have any information readily in front of me. I know it was supposed to be based on some true incidents that they've taken and intertwined it into the story, but I don't have any ready information. We've had cases like that. We had one case up in Washington where it was a young girl who had become possessed, and when we when we arrived there, the doors had all been locked from the inside of her bedroom. We heard incredible loud screaming, growling sounds actually from inside of her room.
Growling.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then we initially broke down the door, went inside, and we found that the entire ceiling, walls, everything had been covered in blood, and it was dripping more blood than even that she could contain in her body.
You ran in the room and you saw blood dripping everywhere. Blood.
Yes, exactly. Somehow, either someone had smeared massive amounts of blood all over the room and turned over objects and locked this girl in the room, or at least everyone was claiming that she had done this phenomenon.
What was the girl doing when you walked in the room and the place is dripping blood?
She was going through convulsions in the middle of the room on the floor. And she was covered in blood as well.
How old is this girl?
She was 5.
Did the blood come from her?
Well, assumingly, yeah. I mean, it's the same blood type, if that's what you mean. Yeah,
okay, so you sampled the blood?
Yeah, we sampled the blood. We did complete polygraph tests on everyone to see if their stories were legitimate. Yeah.
Was she speaking in tongues and strength and all the things?
Not at the time when we arrived, but that particular situation, that's the first one that comes to mind that's close to the Exorcist situation, where there were times when she did speak in different tongues, where she did do the projectile vomiting, and there's several things she did with her body, contortions, which she wouldn't normally be able to do, as hyperextending her arms, bending them the other directions. Literally, you could hear the breaking of the bone as her arm would bend in the other direction, that kind of thing.
And the bone was broken. Her arm was broken.
Well, the joint, yeah. I mean, she would still be able to move the joint from a muscular standpoint, but the bone would have to, obviously, all the tendons in it would crack from bending the other direction.
What did you wind up doing in that particular case?
In that situation, again, we had to go outside of the realm of science, and actually the family requested an exorcist brought in. We maintained scientific analysis of it while the whole thing took place, and again, the phenomena stopped. Now, I think I should point out there have been exorcisms that we've been on where the so-called exorcists came in, did their thing, and it didn't help. It didn't help one bit. That the phenomena stayed there. Yeah.
What about this particular one? Did the girl go through the same kind of things that Linda Blair goes through in The Exorcist?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. There was no levitation of her. There were objects that were propelled across the room, but she herself wasn't levitating.
All right, now what about celebrity hauntings? Here in Hollywood, there's a lot of homes that celebrities have lived in, died in, and have you guys been involved in some of those?
Yeah, there are a couple of celebrities who had actually called us who now own houses of past celebrities. And obviously, I'm sure they wouldn't want me to divulge who they are and their experiences.
All right, but what about, Marilyn Monroe, for example? There's been stories and people have talked about that.
Yeah, we investigated one of the homes that she used to live in. And in fact, there were unusual phenomena that we've been able to document, which we can't explain. We can't say that it's certainly a ghost doing it because we don't know. But there are objects, for example, would move, unusual cold spots that would emanate, that would also, along with the cold spot, there'd be background radiation fluctuations, things that were just very extraordinary. And this would happen. There are a couple of homes, not to rule out celebrities. I mean, homes people passed away in regularly. But there are quite a few celebrity homes that are supposedly haunted.
All right, now just remembered why you're such a great guest and we wanted you back. When we had you down in San Diego, Mark and I fought for question time. We just couldn't get enough of you. So, but we do have to open these phones up to some people that want to talk to you too, okay?
All right.
All right. We're going to take a quick break and be right back.
We also want to talk at some point about Roswell.
Okay.
That movie on Showtime was excellent, and about UFOs and aliens in general.
Okay.
You got some stuff in there?
I sure do.
And there's a guy on the phone who says he's got a goat out of his farm talking in tongues. I swear to God. Is he still there? Hang on before we take this break. Where's the goat? Gary on 9. Gary on 9.
Gary?
Yes.
Are you the guy with the goat talking?
Yes.
You got your goat talking in tongues?
These goats, they were always funny. You'd go walking by the fence there, and they'd go, hi. And you'd look over, you'd swear there was somebody there.
Oh, they would not go hi.
They would. I swear to God, it was just kind of a, hi. And just used to always weird us out. Well, one night, my wife was out feeding the horses, which is next to the goats, and it's dark. It's around Halloween time, and it gets dark early up there. And she comes running into the house, white as a sheet, scared to death. She says, "I was out there feeding the horses, and there's somebody out there hurt real bad. They're yelling for help." And I said, "Let's get some flashlights." And I grabbed a flashlight. My brother goes, I was in my brother, he lives next door, in his house. And so, you still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. God, I thought I'd lost you there.
Gary, is this a true story or is it like a joke?
This is a true story, honest to God. So we ran out there, and we've got, like some tractors parked out front. And we go running by the tractors, and we shine them under there, and we just jumped. We didn't see anything, but we just expected to see somebody crushed. And we heard this, help! Just, God, it sounded like somebody was just crushed. It's all they could do to get out this help,
But you're saying the goats talk. Have you pulled up a bucket, sat down and discussed, the Packer game? Are they talking full statements?
I think probably when we weren't around.
I think they probably, a Rams fan probably. But when you think about it. All right, Gary. Well, you're talking goats. Listen, if the goats start talking, put them on the air. Call us real quick. We will put them on the air. We promise you.
Hi.
Okay, now I got a music request, too. Having these goats, and we've got some sheep, too. I'd like to hear If I Can't Have a You, I Don't Want Nobody, Baby.
Okay. All right. All right, hang on the phone, Gary.
Really sorry to take your time with that, Christopher.
Yeah, there's a lot of phone calls, and we're going to get to them. All right, we should do business, which we will do. We will return with Christopher Chacon. He is, again, the director of the Office of Scientific and Investigative Research. We'll be back with him right after this.
Oozing from the inky blackness of night, rises a grotesque figure from the bowels of hell. Run. Run. Mortality of man another time. Welcome back to the Mark and Brian radio program. We have Christopher is here. We're terrible at this. We're supposed to say where our guests are from and why they're here every break because we just figured you've been listening all morning. But it's the Office of Scientific Investigation and Research. He has been on our program before. We can't have enough time with him, unfortunately. We could have him for 3 hours and talk to him.
I know. Rita brought up a good point while we weren't on the air. You studied what in college?
Behavioral psychology.
Okay.
And more specifically, how people respond to illusions, how they can be misperceived.
All right.
Which is great. Great training for what you do.
Yeah, because actually we train every investigator in concepts of magic and illusion because the first thing we look for are hoaxes, or we look for rational explanations first. We want to rule those out right away.
Okay, so now one of the things that you have brought up in your description of a situation earlier today is the absolute mind-blowing power of your own brain. Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about psychokinesis, is it?
Right.
You watched a body, a solid, looked like you could touch it body, walk around a house. You followed it, and you yourself watched it walk through a wall. Mm-hmm. So the obvious question is, well, hey, then do you believe in ghosts? Your response was what?
That is certainly a possibility.
Okay.
See, that's why we can't be scientists. Because we go, yeah, ghosts here. All right, there's ghosts.
Let's get Burger King.
Ghosts exist.
Because in this area, belief systems, we believe belief systems have an effect on the situation, how we approach it, how we continue to investigate it. So we have to remain completely unbiased with an open mind.
No, you watched a guy walk through a wall. Mm-hmm. Now that's a ghost. But you said somebody could. Now, what did you say? Somebody's brain could have projected that for all of you to see. There's 8 of you, and you all saw the same guy.
Right.
Let me help you out here.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Ghost there. Mm-hmm. Ghost was there. That was a ghost.
Walk through wall. Go.
Now, investigation over. Ghost here.
But what you're saying is, and this is, I would imagine, this is a Woody for you, is that somebody through psychokinesis could actually, like a movie projector, with their own brain, they could project an image of a person walking through something that you all could see.
Right.
The camera didn't film it because it wasn't really there.
But that's almost as fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. Yeah, for individuals to, I mean, if individuals can make objects move, then they can alter the environment in some way. Certainly, they have some ability to be able to subatomically alter or change things. They can create smells, sounds, sights. They could not just perceptually, but in the environment itself.
Now, that's mind-blowing right there. That what you're talking about right there is intense. You yourself have sat and watched someone say something simple like bend a spoon with their brain?
Under laboratory conditions, right. Yeah.
Well, see, that's too weird now. How does that work? How could that be possible?
Well, you know, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, again, do effects like that. And again, they use trickery. Some people use trickery, but not everyone does. And when people who are under laboratory conditions want to test it out, obviously we would go through incredible extremes to make sure to rule out any possibility. How they do that, I mean, there's a lot of theories in it. We can get into the biophysics of it. And it really has to do a lot with quantum physics and biophysics and how the two can intertwine into each other. Obviously, way too deep to get into in this conversation, but it's really a matter of the mind affecting the environment.
All right,
which we always are doing.
Let's go to Stephanie on 4. Stephanie.
Which we always are doing.
Hello?
You're on the air.
Hi, this is Stephanie calling from Long Beach.
Yes, Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, my dad used to live in South Pasadena, and down the street from his house was a house, and everyone knew it on the block. It wasn't a big deal, that was haunted. And you could go in the kitchen, and they always laughed and said, well, is the ghost in a good mood or a bad mood? Because if it was in a bad mood, it would, open the kitchen cabinets, and it would throw the stuff out. And if it was in a good mood, it would do mild things like just start the dishwasher or the washer and dryer. And I just wondered how possible that was, that it was really haunted, because I don't think they ever did it to get attention. It was just kind of, a known fact that this house was haunted. It was really strange. And, there are all sorts of rumors, like someone's grandmother died in it 15 years ago or something, but I don't think anyone ever knows, who the haunter was. And they would every once in a while see, images, but they couldn't say whether it was a man or a woman. It was just, faint trace outlines of a body that would walk around upstairs. It was really weird, though.
Well, a common concept regarding haunts is that, at least in the parapsychological community, is that it's in fact an impression that's been left behind. It's sort of like videotape. And when we live, somehow subatomically we're affecting the environment. And after we passed on, we've left this impression. And certain people are very susceptible to experiencing it. So what they're really seeing is they're not seeing any real existence, no intelligent life there. What they're really seeing is this videotape being played back over and over and over again, just performing certain duties.
And that's what you believe?
That's one possibility, yeah.
What scares you, Christopher?
Nothing. God, you watched the ghost walk through a wall.
Yeah. And you opened the door, and you saw an entire room dripping with blood. The walls and the ceiling.
I think it's a possibility.
There was no blood taken from the girl that you saw laying there, in convulsions. And
talking in tongues, and she's fine.
All right, I guess what I'm asking in a serious way is, what does scare you when you start an investigation? Are you frightened before you walk in that house?
No, not at all.
It's exciting.
No. I think, it is to some degree exciting. Yeah, it's. And again, we're really there. Our main objective is to help the people.
But have you been afraid of something? Have you been afraid?
I think the biggest fear factor that comes into play is regarding the people, because 60 to 70% of the cases, whether it be UFO abductions or poltergeist situations, there's a percentage. All that 60%, 70% of them are explainable. About 30% of those are psychological, and there's a percentage of those which are extreme psychosis. We were in one situation with 4 people monitoring the environment looking for poltergeists, and suddenly objects were being thrown at us, sharp knives, glass. There was even gunshots. What we found out is that they were all psychotic to some degree. And obviously we were in a situation where here these 4 people are trying not only to kill each other, but to kill the investigators, us, while we were in there.
But they were doing it with their brains?
No, they were just picking up objects and talking to people, throwing them at you. Yeah.
I'm possessed. Target practice. It's a turkey shoot here.
All right, now we've saved this for last, only because the other stuff isn't so fascinating. We've got to get into UFOs, abductions, aliens, spacecrafts,
and we have a minute and a half to do it.
We'll talk about one of the most amazing cases of abduction or of UFOs. Anything that you got in that area?
Well, there was. I'll go from one extreme to the other. There was one case we had when we were actually being able to monitor an object, and so was the FAA. A variety of their control towers were monitoring an object entering our airspace. And our team was also monitoring it as well, because we have a lot of the same type of equipment they have. We were able to monitor this object, and it almost as if this object was sort of going from place to place to place, and this was across actually California. We were able to narrow down and plot exactly where the object had appeared to landed. we were able to get close enough to the object to actually observe it. And what
Physically observe it or over monitors?
Physically observe it, yeah. And it turned out to be a test craft for a corporation. I'm assuming this was for a drone that would be for government purposes, for spying, technically. But, I mean, this object, if to the layperson, it basically was a flying saucer. I mean, it shaped like it looked like it made the sounds like it. It didn't fly like it too well because it was having problems flying, but it was basically a drone that was able to do surveillance. And to most people, if they had seen this object, they would have definitely said, "My God, that was
that's a UFO." Saw
right
that.
Now the other extreme situation, we have a device. It's an aerodynamic probe, and what we've done is basically taken a cruise missile and redesigned it so that it's at the front of it. We're able to do close range spectrophotometric analysis, which will give you heat exhaust emissions. It'll look at the object in total darkness. And we're able to, using laser guidance, launch this object at a UFO. And it's able to get up to 500 feet to the object, taping it, recording it. In which case, then it'll just break off and we could re-retrieve the probe.
You made this? You guys made this?
Our organization made this. Now, we can't fire it in the continental U.S. because of obvious restrictions to do so.
Jesus.
We were able to fire it and use it in another country and monitor a flying object, a UFO. And we were able to get very close to the object. Again, according to the analysis that we did, there seemed to be no, even though it emitted brilliant light, the photon emissions, well, just in simple terminology, there seemed to be no heat emissions at all from the object, which is kind of bizarre for an aircraft which is supposed to be suspended there, and also for an aircraft which took off at such an incredible rate of speed from our own object that we have no rational explanation for it. I mean, it's possible. We can't rule out the fact that it could be some government testing some type of aircraft, but it's dozens of years away from the technology, at least that we're privy to.
Let's talk about the Roswell incident.
Yeah.
Has your organization done any sort of investigation on this?
We've done some cursory research because of some documents which came across our desk regarding the
Did you get the wall? Did you get just the door slammed in your face?
No, actually, we pursued a whole different. There's a lot of aspects regarding the Roswell incident which has never been brought up. And we still feel there's a lot of information out there about that whole circumstance. And during that time when the Roswell incident happened, there was a lot of disinformation, a lot of projects being created for disinformation for exactly the purpose because they were testing a variety of aircraft. So at this point, it's really, I mean, there's so much information to go through as far as trying to determine what's real and what's not.
You saw the videotape of the autopsy, I'm sure.
Yes.
What'd you think of that?
Well, without us being able to analyze it in our own laboratories, not to be skeptical, but we would have to be analytical. I still have to raise a lot of questions about it.
Okay. Talk about people who have been abducted or who claim to have been abducted. Most amazing thing you've seen in that particular situation.
We've had one case where actually two individuals claimed they were abducted, a husband and wife. And it wasn't until the woman began to have unusual lesions on her body, almost like burns that were being raised on her skin, but in geometric forms. And the same with the husband. Eventually, they went to a doctor, and he couldn't figure out what was going on. And
they had no memory of what had happened to them?
No.
Okay.
Complete loss of memory. And they, in turn, the doctor referred them to a psychiatrist, and, of course, we came to our organization. We got involved. We went through the hypnosis with them. And sure enough, there was a whole area of just blank space in their mind from missing time. And not even their subconscious was able to record what happened for 3 or 4 days. It just disappeared from their time. And so we decided to go back and do some research and investigate their house, which was out in the country. And sure enough, their entire area was emitting extremely strong radioactive emissions. We decided to go ahead and follow up and monitor these individuals on a long-term basis. And what we did find out is in fact, while they were sleeping, they were doing particular acts which were, very extraordinary types of acts that would deal with, I'm trying to simplify this, in mathematical terms. They would, for example, take dominoes and form them in ways that would only be, I guess, perhaps considered in calculus, perhaps, mathematical numbers.
While they were sleeping?
Right, while they were sleeping. They would do different things with objects in the house as if they were trying to create a map. And the interesting thing is that they really have no recollection of what happened at that time. They can't convey it, but to us, it seems the most fascinating, incredible circumstance because of what all the data leads up to.
What does it lead up to?
Well, for the most part, that somehow, I mean, if you look at it just unbiasedly again. Their entire home has been inundated with this radioactivity, which has no rational explanation for it, at least not according to the CDC or the government or anyone of that nature. That they have missing time. These are all the characteristics which are typically connected to people who are abducted. And also they're doing these chores totally in a subconscious state while they're sleeping at an incredible fast rate that no normal person could be able to do it.
And also this calculus, this math, do they have the background,
No. Oh, none whatsoever. I mean, these people live out on a farm, and the gentleman's a farmer, and the woman basically just sort of is a
and in
housekeeper.
their sleep they're doing advanced calculus.
Exactly. But they're, like I said, they're trying to do something. They're trying to create some type of design of a map of some sort. And they're doing this with just all kinds of objects. And then they go back to sleep and have no recollection of the events that ever took place.
So they wake up and they see the dominoes in this theorem or something on the table, and they don't know what it is?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the strange thing is, again, every investigation we ever go on, we constantly monitor all the people biophysically, brain waves, muscular reactions, things of that nature. And while these people are performing these tasks, there are parts of the brain which are extremely active. And they're doing, one key thing, they're doing all these activities with their eyes closed while they're sleeping. Their eyes are not open.
Now, how do you know that?
Well, we're there.
Your
we have
video
night vision
okay.
equipment. We're monitoring them constantly.
Okay, watch
They're
this.
doing it with their eyes closed.
Right.
They're doing calculus with their eyes closed.
Okay, watch this. You believe in UFOs, Chris?
Well, yeah, the definition by itself, any object you look up in the sky and you cannot
You believe in
identify it.
aliens from other planets coming in, investigating people, and taking us up in their spacecraft, probing us, putting big steel plugs up everything?
I think that it's definitely a possibility.
All right,
That,
let me help you out. After that story, they're out there.
Right, aliens come down.
We're not alone.
See, you got a farmer doing calculus, dude, his eyes closed, even dominoes, making them out. There's aliens around, and they're coming down.
Usually in my sleep with my eyes closed, all I can do is fart. I mean, that's about it.
So that you know. You want to bring out your stuff and investigate that? You want to check, because that's a phenomenon right there.
We'll pass on that one.
Oh, listen, Christopher, come back. And also, we were talking to Christopher last break about maybe having next Halloween, if it could be an unofficial kind of a status for you, because you are a professional, your whole organization is a professional. If you could take us somewhere where you could just sit there with us, where there's known phenomenon happening in a room, in a haunting or something, we'd love to do that next Halloween.
Does something come to mind on that? I mean, if we say we want to go with you and have you do something with us on a non-official thing,
we wouldn't touch nothing.
what comes to mind? What comes to mind?
Well, it's possible. The problem is obviously we don't want to intrude on the confidentiality we have with any of the clients we're working with now.
Right.
So it had to be a situation where the people are open to it, and of course, wherever the location is, perhaps if it's a known haunt.
Like a hotel room or something?
Exactly.
Like what? What you got?
Like, for example, the Hotel del Coronado would be a possibility, because we've investigated extensively one of the rooms there.
There's one particular room.
Room 3502, which apparently there seems to be reoccurring phenomena in there, and including, I mean, the variety of people who've stayed there, including President Bush's, one of his Secret Service men who was staying there when President Bush was there, had to be moved from one room to another because the activity was taking place. It was just, he couldn't sleep at night.
All right, maybe we could do something next year on that.
That's
If
a
you're in
possibility.
town. Well, we just love to do
That's
that
a
with you.
possibility.
With you there.
There's a possibility.
Is there a number? Are you looking for cases all the time, or are you?
Well, if someone needs assistance or help, we obviously want to assist those people. And the best way to do it at this point, because we have thousands of cases which we're still backlogged on and doing research on, the best thing to do would be to write us at this point. And take a write, OSIR, Post Office Box 461779, Los Angeles, California 90046.
But luckily, it sounds as though psychologists and psychiatrists around the nation, various doctors, know of you people and know to contact you in a case where they themselves don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they do.
Outstanding of you to come in today, and we hope to see you again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll do it again next year, and we are going someplace.
Okay.
There's a possibility.
With or without you. We'll prove that they exist. We'll give you the proof you need.
Yeah, right. Christopher Chacon is still in here. He was just telling the story. There's this one particular room at Hotel del Coronado, which we have talked to him about going down with us at one point, where we go down, and me and Brian, we spend the night. Chris with us. Well, same bed. We sleep in this room.
We've actually done something like this before, Chris.
Yes, we have.
It was on a college campus in Alabama. Right. This house was haunted, and we stayed there. I might have heard something, but the thing you needed to see was, this is what we need a video camera for. We had our Marantz tape recorder, and we were in the bedroom upstairs where this guy supposedly was murdered as he was counting his money. That was the story. Yeah. And we're almost... We didn't mean for this position to happen, but I get, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. It was dead silence. We think we're hearing things. It was scary. We started spooning. We actually were cuddling in the bed with the Moran's tape recorder between us.
All right, now this Hotel Del Coronado, quickly the history of the room. Now there's this one particular room that has problems at the Hotel Del Coronado, and Chris just said that they don't rent the room normally. They'll keep it vacant as long as they can unless they physically are sold out and they have to put somebody in it.
Now, I'm familiar with the story. Many of the maids and the people that work there have seen things happening.
Right, yeah.
What is the story of the room?
Well, the story is that a woman actually came there. This was back in the turn of the century, and was going to meet her fiance. And apparently, some type of foul play took place, and she was found dead on the beach side. And what forensic evidence? First, what they said that she committed suicide, but now they're saying forensic evidence shows otherwise, that she may have been murdered by her fiance at the time. And also, the maid who was in that room, it was a maid's quarters at 3502, she had strangely enough disappeared. They never found her again. So they think that speculation is that maybe this gentleman ran away with this maid, and they killed his fiance. And there's a whole sort of a bizarre story that goes on as far as the people who did research regarding the woman who stayed there and the maid and everything else with it. So the story is really...
What kind of stuff happens in the room? Let's say you're laying there, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and something happens. What kind of stuff typically happens in the room?
The kind of things that people have complained about hearing ranges from the cabinets in the room. There's a cabinet that holds the television, opens and closes, the drapes open and shut. The phone will keep continuously ringing even though you unplug it from the wall. The faucet will switch on and off by itself. Windows open and close. They'll see apparitions in the room. They've heard voices in the room. They've even heard voices and people talking and dancing, doing things upstairs when there is no upstairs. It's the top highest room in the structure. So this is a variety of the kind of things they've seen.
Yeah. This is all right, we're doing this next year.
So we'll spend the night. That night, then we'll get up and we'll do the show the next morning from the room. Now, if you guys can work it up again, you don't know. I realize you're a scientific thing, and so
you're a scientific thing, Christopher.
But
thank you.
You scientific thing.
If your people could come and like we can have the equipment and stuff going. You even talked about you could put stuff on us to record our brain waves and what the hell. We'll tell you right now, your equipment will show us flipping out. Is what it's going to. Hook that up. Because that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, we'll monitor your biophysical reactions throughout the evening.
Great. Our reactions will be basically, hold me.
Okay, so now today, a typical day in your life, what is it you're off to today?
Well, today I have to go by a poltergeist case that's been going on for a couple of weeks here in Los Angeles, and then from there I have to go check up on a couple of demonic possession cases and a
work
anomalous case out in the desert. Yeah,
work.
Now you already have a staff of people at each one of these situations, like the demonic possessions. There's a staff that's already been there.
Yeah, complete team of investigators, right?
And it looks like it's going to be a real thing.
This case, the first one I'm going to today, yeah. Oh, it's definitely phenomena is happening. This is a question of what we could do now to, fulfill our objective to the people. Yeah, because they wanted to try to terminate it in some way because they don't want to have to move out of the house.
What about the demonic possessions?
Well, those at this point we're just trying to ascertain whether or not it is something psychological or explainable or not.
The whole idea behind this is scientific research and helping people, and that's really how you get your cookie in this as well as a paycheck. But has there ever been a case where there's nothing you can do? They don't want to move out of the house, and your advice to them is leave the house.
Yes.
There has been a case of that, and they won't.
Several.
And they won't
and the people just say, "Well, fine, we'll just." It's at that point, it's just a question of really living with it, whatever the activity or phenomena is, and that has happened. There's been a couple of extremely bizarre situations. One where this woman was living by herself, and objects would be turning over all throughout the day, and she didn't want to move out of the situation. We couldn't help her. So finally we said, well, what we tell most people is when they have these kind of phenomena, you could deal with it in a lot of ways. One is you could just try to communicate in some way. Because if it is psychokinetically, you're basically communicating with yourself to try to do something. And you say, well, listen, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm putting my fist down and this phenomenon is going to stop. Or you could try just ignoring it altogether. Well, the third thing is what she did, because those first two didn't work. She said, hey, listen, if you're going to do something, why don't you do something constructive? Okay, and she
help me clean up.
Every day, she would say things like that. Well, apparently, it's the most unusual thing now. Usually in every home, there's a certain degree of dust particles. You could see them, minute dust particles. Well, apparently, they're being totally absorbed in the environment like a vacuum. And things are clean. She never has to dust a room or vacuum in the room.
All right.
And dishes are clean. It's just extraordinary.
Well, now where do you get one of them? That would be great.
If we can mass produce this, we can make
Ghost helping you clean up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, man, thank you for coming in. It was riveting to listen to you talk about all that stuff.
Truly.
And we will
My
be
pleasure.
going to the Del Coronado and doing a thing.
Okay.
All right. Do you promise it won't come home with us?
Well, anyway, that's my time is up.
right.
It is
Let me,
possible.
let me show you. If we do, in fact, see something there in that room next year, and something like you've described today, dripping of blood or an apparition walking through a wall, you'll be there with your scientific equipment, and this will be Mark and Brian.
You'll be doing the radio program by your damn self.
We'll be flailing our arms in the air. Oh, God. Well,
I'll try to make it.
We actually were. We did an apartment here in town about 2 years ago where we stayed the night, or at least we're there past midnight, and the bathroom light came on by itself. That's the closest thing we've ever come to something abnormal.
Yeah. And he's sitting there thinking, boy, could I show you some
I know. Yeah, that's great.
Man.
Bad wiring, huh?
Okay, we will get out of here. You go and have yourself a fine day. We will be at the Halloween drive-in tonight. Gates open at 5:30, and then, of course, the first movie starts up at 7 o'clock, so we'll be a part of that.
See you tonight if you can make it. If not, we'll see you tomorrow. Be good humans.